All right, class. Now that we've got our doors all hung and cased out and the windows all cased out, we're done with our casing. So the next step is baseboard. You always want to get the casing on the doors and everything first before you lay your baseboard down, because that baseboard will run into that casing and end real nice. As you guys have seen before, we have been putting up our door casings all along. These are like the door casing legs. It's cut opposite because this is a scrap piece and I'm using it as an example, but we also have our baseboard here. This is what's going to go right down along the ground, the transition between the floor and the wall. Now, when you guys are laying out your house and you're figuring everything, you got to make sure that your baseboard is either as thick or slightly narrower than your casing. Your casing is going to sit down on the floor like this and your baseboard is going to run into it. So we don't want our baseboard sticking out like this past it. You know, we would much rather have it nice and flush, or else our casing be just a little bit wider. These both happen to be 5/8 of an inch thick. It's a slight upgrade. Most of your baseboards are usually about 3.5 inches tall, 3¼ inches tall. Most of your casings that you'll find at Menards and Home Depot are about 2¼ inches. This is 3¼ inches wide this way. Our baseboard here is 4¼ inches. So a little bit big, but as you can see, boom, when our baseboard runs into our door casing like this, they're the same thickness this direction, okay? That way that baseboard doesn't stick out. But now as we start running our baseboard, we do it slightly differently. Our baseboard all sits on edge like this. It's standing up. You guys have been used to cutting your casings nice and flat like this. A nice mitered corner goes together like this. Granted, this is backwards because these are scrap pieces and cut off. But anyway, they've been going together like this. Well, your baseboard is ever so slightly different. Your baseboard, you got a piece here and you got a piece here, they will be going together like this on edge. They still use a mitered corner, as you can see right there. It is mitered, however, they're not laying flat. Basically what you want to do is set your piece of baseboard on your saw, standing up against the fence, pushed up tight. Don't have it leaning one way or leaning the other. Push it up tight, and you'll make your miter right there, same way. I find if you cut your baseboard standing up, there's a lot less work to do at the saw. All you're doing is cranking the table 45 degrees right, 45 degrees left. Now, on that note, we wind up with the different types of joints that we are going to have with our baseboard. Essentially, when you're running your baseboard, the joints you're going to wind up with are inside corners and outside corners, okay? 90 degrees, going around corners and whatnot, or going inside corners. So I'm going to put these guys back down here for a sec, just to give you guys a view of what we're talking about, kind of an exploded view of what we're talking about here. So as I turn this around, we're going to start right up next to that cabinet in the kitchen right there. So I've got 3 pieces sit here, cut and ready to go. But I have an outside corner. My baseboard is coming all the way around here, going around the outside of the corner and ending at my cabinet. So if we look down upon these, we can see right here now, I have 45-degree angle, 45-degree angle, 45-degree angle, 45-degree angle. Now, on my outside corners of my baseboard here, this angle right here is 90 degrees. I should cut that at 2 45-degree angles. However, going around these outside corners, and I've been looking at it, this is slightly more than 90 degrees. I always like to cut my outside corners at about 46 degrees. That makes sure that there's no gaps on the outside right here, okay? It's just a little bit sharp, and but it seems to keep the gaps together tight. Once again, you're still going to glue, you're still going to nail these corners right here. But these are outside corners going around the outside. Now if we come over to here, we will notice we have an inside corner with our baseboard right there. So you would think that all I would do is cut a 45-degree angle right there on both sides, right at the apex of the corner there. That is not the case. When we're doing inside corners with baseboard, yes, it's a 90-degree corner usually. However, we don't want to cut miters for our inside corners. They are going to do nothing but open up on us. What we are going to cut is called a, let's see if I can get this right out here. Come back towards me. We'll move this guy out of the way. And what we wind up with, as you can see here now, is a cope. Okay, I cut the profile right there And essentially what happens with that profile class is that I have this nice, beautiful little profile cut right here. Well, what that does for us is it allows the piece of baseboard to fit right into that profile, just like that, and make us a nice, tight inside corner. Okay, that is called a cope. And when I get downstairs at the miter saw, I'm going to show you guys how to make that cope. But anyway, that's what we use for an inside corner. We don't just cut a 45. That's not standard practice. Plus, that joint tends to open up over time as this wood expands and contracts. Using a cope for a joint in the corner like we did right here allows us a couple things. We can cut this piece of baseboard, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, maybe an 1/8 of an inch long at the most, and we can snap it into place. And by the time we put pressure on this, this will never open up. Plus, this whole house, this is a paint package. All this trim is going to be white. Okay, we'll run a slight little bead of caulk right there. And you will never know that that is not a 45 or a 90-degree corner cut at 245s. It's going to look like a beautiful mitered corner, yet there's no mitering involved. The cope is a little bit extra work, but when we get downstairs, I will show you guys how to do that. Couple other things. When we are laying out for baseboard, I usually like to do this beforehand. A lot of times the baseboard's going down when you still have rough subfloor out there and it's just your plywood or your OSB down on your floor. Find your studs first, okay? When there's no drywall or when you can just see the bottom of the studs, it's real easy to walk around with a Sharpie, walk around with your pencil on the floor and mark the centers of those studs, okay? Then you don't have to sit there with your tape measure, try to find a stud. You know, use a stud sensor, you know, pound it in, pound a nail in, try to hit a stud and then find out where they are. If you have all those studs marked beforehand, it's real easy. I don't have the luxury of that house, or in this house, so I'm trying to find the studs beforehand before I put them in and mark them, because basically what you're going to use is your 15 gauge nailer, the quote-unquote big nails. You're going to put 2 nails in, one at the top, one at the bottom, to hold that thing tight against the wall. Yeah, so that's baseboard in a nutshell right there. I'm going to install these first couple pieces, and we'll go downstairs and we'll work on making these cuts. Talk to you guys in a minute.